on, guys? August 2nd here, and I want to film a quick news roundup because, as you can tell by all the green little arrows designating the individual news stories, there's been a lot of stuff come out in the mainstream media the past couple days. And the main concepts that we're going to be discussing in this video are these two things right here. Human trafficking and the whole UFO alien issue. Because in my opinion, there is no two bigger things facing humanity right now than this issue, all the nefarious, dark stuff the occult elite does, and this issue, which, you know, the alien UFO extraterrestrial phenomenon and all of the science and technology associated with it could be the biggest cover-up there has ever been. So we're going to discuss these two things, and I'm going to run through this really quick because there's a lot of stuff we have to cover. Now, first, we're going to discuss the new White House Chief of Staff, John Kelly. And I found an article on Zero Hedge just yesterday that really interested me and really gave me faith in this guy, in John Kelly. Because this article states that General Kelly, in 2014, stated that human trafficking and drug cartels are the most concerning threat facing the United States. And, you know, he's made a lot of references to this issue and how grave of a danger it is, which is awesome, right? Because remember, one of the things that gives credence to the whole idea of President Trump and his administration being for an alliance that's trying to take down the deep state is his outspoken hatred towards the human trafficking issue, his outspoken criticism of it. Now, the fact that he also criticizes it definitely gives me faith that, you know, this whole alliance thing is very well the case, and I am happy that he's in there. Now, what's really interesting is, I don't know if you remember earlier this year, but when President Trump signed those executive orders that had to do with human trafficking back in February or so, there was also a government-made commercial about human trafficking that came out with it. And this commercial was made by the Department of Homeland Security, well, who was the head of the DHS at that very time that commercial was released? This guy, John Kelly. So anyway, I'm seeing this as being a very good move, and it's a move that looked like was very specifically done with the way Spicer was out, Scaramucci came in, Reince Priebus was basically forced out of his position, and then John Kelly went and replaced Priebus. So, boom, very well calculated it does seem, and it does give me faith that things are moving in the right direction with this administration. Next, I want to talk about this little Neon Nettle article I've seen floating around. And this one says, the Blink-182 singer Tom DeLonge exposes a pedophile ring leading to arrests, and the kidnappers arrested with connections to a larger human trafficking network. Now, first, I want to make a note of Neon Nettle, right? I like this news outlet, but I also don't like it at the same time. I like it because they talk about a lot of the dark stuff that needs to be exposed, like this issue. But at the same time, I don't like it because it's very clickbaity. A lot of times, this outlet, when they run articles, they may not have a lot of stuff actually sourced in the articles, and the headlines are very sensational. So I don't like it in that regard. And in discussing this article that was circulating a lot, it's actually a somewhat true occurrence, because I actually follow Tom DeLonge on social media, and in this article on Neon Nettle it says, the singer made a public appeal on his Facebook page to almost 600,000 followers, revealing the identities of two men wanted in connection with a spate of child abductions. So what occurred is that in Southern California just earlier this week, two dudes tried to kidnap a 15-year-old girl at this elementary school. And Tom DeLonge caught wind of it. You know, it was very near his home, and I think it was like his former school, or like a school that his kids used to went to, or something like that. He was connected to it. It was very close to him. So he took to social media and just posted the pictures of these two dudes and blew it up. And apparently these two dudes had been arrested. So, you know, back to the sensational claims, I don't think Tom DeLonge was exposing a giant pedophile ring. You know, it was just two guys he put on blast on social media. And the subtitle, remember this headline, says, "Kidnappers arrested with connections to larger human trafficking network." Still don't know if that's really the case. So, kind of clickbaity. But, you know, it's good that Tom DeLonge was blowing up this issue and led to their arrest. But big question, you know, Tom DeLonge, not sure if you know, but this Neon Nettle actually outlines a lot of the UFO researching that Tom DeLonge's been getting into, okay? So, lately, right, Tom DeLonge has been very subtle about his claims, but he's basically saying, oh, you know, I'm a part of this whole disclosure thing. Remember, Tom DeLonge was even mentioned in the WikiLeaks emails. He was talking with John Podesta and different Air Force generals and even the director of Lockheed Skunk Works. Like, Tom DeLonge is basically, we call him, what I would call him is a useful idiot. So he's being used as a pawn in a disclosure game by the intelligence communities. You know, we usually call him either a useful idiot or a conscious deceiver. I don't think Tom DeLonge's being a conscious deceiver. I think he's just unaware of a lot of other stuff that's going on, and he's being used by the intel agencies. But here's the question, right? That long backstory aside, what about the guys he's working with? You know, Tom DeLonge was basically stating in his Facebook post that human trafficking and all these horrible sex crimes are awful, and as a father, and I can speak for all the other fathers, these guys are lucky they were grabbed by the police and not us, okay? But remember, Tom DeLonge is working directly with John Podesta, okay? So he's either extremely blind to what's right in front of him, right? He's like 1 degree away from pedogate right there, or again, he's either the useful idiot, that's that scenario, or he's a conscious deceiver, or he's in on it. But I don't think that's the case, right? I definitely don't think that's the case. So, let's hope he sees, you know, who exactly he's working with. Now I want to get into really all the alien stories, because what's more fun to talk about than that? And we're going to roll through a lot of interesting things that have come out on all mainstream media. These have all been mainstream media articles that I'm going to present to you that have come out just the past couple days, and super interesting. First is this one on the Daily Mail. It was basically a guy, an actor that was in the original movie Alien in 1975. Apparently he was like killed off in the movie, but he was one of the main actors. He actually came out of what we call the cosmic closet, and that's just basically when you start talking about aliens to public, right? Because let's be real, everybody wants to talk about aliens. Even people who aren't into conspiracy theories and are very conventional in their line of thinking, they still want to talk about aliens too. Everybody wants to. It's just they're scared to. It's been so ingrained in our subconscious to be a very ridiculed subject that all it takes is a little bit of nudge, right? And people will come out of the woodwork and start talking about it. So this guy did, and he's basically saying aliens are real, and he even claims that he's been abducted by them. So that's a little interesting development there. Next, this article was really circulating around a lot of different mainstream outlets today, and it basically was saying that NASA has a job opening for someone to defend Earth from aliens, and it pays a 6-figure salary. So, you know, you just have to look at the timing. You have to look at the timing of these articles and the wording used, right? There's nothing done on accident, really. I don't want to say nothing, but there's very little done on accident at this level. They could have picked any time to run this story that they wanted to and use any wording they wanted to run it with, but they chose now, and this wording, NASA has a job opening to defend the Earth from aliens. You know, and in this story, it's not that grand. It's just basically saying that there's a officer that NASA hires to prevent the contamination of human stuff from going to space, or space stuff from coming to Earth and contaminating, but just interesting the way they word it, right? Defend the Earth from aliens. It's like they want to disclose some stuff soon, right? Anyway, next article, NBC ran this one, and they actually took the senior astronomer from the SETI Institute in California. Remember the SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence? That's basically the front organization that the government uses to dispel all the rumors and throw a bunch of, alien propaganda out there. But this article says, what happens next if we find proof of space aliens? And then this long article goes into a bunch of mumbo-jumbo about how it literally says right here, how a cover-up would be virtually impossible to pull off. There's no policy of secrecy, and verifying the signal would involve teams of scientists, just a bunch of BS. But, interesting, right? Again, it's always the way they word things. Why would they pick this particular headline? Okay? Again, it's like they want to tell us some things pretty soon. And then we have Buzz Aldrin on August 1st, just yesterday, stating that we'll have humans on Mars within the next 20 years. But again, looking into all the concepts surrounding the secret space programs, it's very likely the case that we've had men on Mars already. That in fact, if you look down into it, the Nazis were probably the first ones to send an expedition to Mars, albeit it failed miserably. But this occurred in the 1940s, when various government/corporate factions on Earth were beginning to get access to electrogravitic anti-gravity technologies, right? This occurred all the way back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s in the 1900s. But again, this is the partial disclosure narrative. So they're really prepping our minds, and they want to bring a lot of these truths out, but they only want to bring the half-truths. The truths that don't implicate them in covering up things like the secret space program for the last 100 years. So think about that, right? I ain't buying it, Buzz, let me tell you. That's why I sell shirts on my Spreadshirt page, right? Shameless plug right here, that say, hey Buzz, we've already got our ass to Mars. Haha, true. Anyway, next we're going on to Yahoo, and this article blew my mind that they ran, because this one was delving deeper into actual truths than many of the other articles. And let me explain. So the title of this one says, how these astronauts had life-changing experiences with aliens. And then in this article on Yahoo, that was posted on July 29th, so again, just like 5 days ago, it recounted the experiences of a handful of different astronauts. Buzz Aldrin was one of them, and this article was actually stating how Buzz Aldrin claimed he saw UFOs shortly after his historic landing on the moon. Weird, right? He hasn't said much about that, but they're putting him on blast in this Yahoo article for stating it. And then they also described the experiences of Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Mitchell was a big one in the ufology movement. He unfortunately recently passed away, but he was stating many, many times, even testified for the Disclosure Project, about the extraterrestrial presence, about zero-point energy technology and everything like that. This article also talks about Gordon Cooper, another NASA astronaut who is on record stating his UFO experiences. And in this Yahoo article, they actually link a video of Gordon Cooper and his witness testimony for the Disclosure Project. The Disclosure Project headed by Stephen Greer. And then lastly, they also talk about Dr. Brian O'Leary, another NASA astronaut who has gone public about UFO, free energy, anti-gravity, all that jazz. But let me ask you this. Why would Yahoo post a Disclosure Project testimony and embed that in their article? It's very, very interesting. Is this, right, is this an example of some white hats in media organizations that are trying to get the truth out there? Maybe. Or is this an example of these media organizations pushing a certain disclosure agenda, right? A certain narrative with their disclosures, or a partial disclosure. Keep that in mind too. Again, right? With all this information coming out, even if these mainstream media organizations are bringing heavy-hitting truth out, much more heavy-hitting than they always have, you always have to question what the narrative might be. Either they're for a full disclosure and for full freedom of humanity, or they're disclosing stuff with an agenda, right? Be careful. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the Atlantic, right? I don't like when these videos get past like 10 minutes, but sometimes they gotta. And this one, the Atlantic, they're stating, the headline of this one, the racism behind alien mummy hoaxes. Now, basically, this was a massive mainstream media hit piece on those Nazca mummified ET bodies that have been discovered and reported by Gaia, the conscious media outlet. So, if you don't know, over the past few weeks, if not month or so, I mean, I think it's been a little bit now, but Gaia has been reporting on the unearthing of these mummified ET bodies in Nazca, Peru, and I think they found multiple bodies, you know, of ranging sizes. They all have 3 fingers, and they've even done DNA tests and MRI scans and all kinds of stuff on these beings, and they're very weird. And so far, it seems very credible. But of course, the mainstream media trying to put a hush on it, trying to either get their version of disclosure out there, right? So they got to make a hit piece on everything that doesn't run with that narrative, or they're just trying to crush any signs of disturbing of the Matrix, right? Huge hit piece on those Nazca mummies. They were basically calling Gaia bunch of crazies, calling this a total hoax, basically saying that it's a giant racist. I don't even know. I look at the headlines, I skim the articles, I don't want to waste too much of my time or brain power on stuff that I know is bullshit. So, there's that. Very good thing for you to learn as well is to, don't avoid the mainstream media. I always say you don't want to avoid it, but you also don't want to give too much of your energy into it, right? It's always good hearing what the opposition says, but it's never good letting them take your life force from you. So anyway, lots of stuff in regards to UFOs and ETs and really bad things the elite does. I'm going to do a big video on this whole issue soon. Because I believe, right, his so-called disclosures are imminent, he says. So there, we want to understand what's really going on behind Tom DeLonge and his disclosures coming out. And we'll also watch the mainstream media closely to see what kind of narratives they're trying to pull with disclosure. Remember, because we can't let them try to pull some partial disclosure bullshit. So I'll keep doing these news reports, as you know I will. I'll definitely keep reporting on aliens because, heck yeah, and definitely keep reporting on all the nasty stuff because that needs to be exposed. I'm out for this one. Thank you all, folks.